do it. All right. Red, black, Steam-Kin, Memekin, whatever you want to call it. This is a deck that plays a bunch of cheap instants and sorceries, both to trigger the card Electrostatic Field, pump up your Steam-Kin ASAP, as well as floop your Arclight Phoenixes back into play. I'm not sure how I really feel about this particular build. The latest build that we're playing had moved away from Arclight Phoenix because it's kind of hard to enable. And this build even looks like it's harder to enable than normal. Like, I guess we have Rix Maadi and Tormenting Voice as ways to get Phoenix in the bin and also Risk Factor, but overall we don't have a ton of ways to bin this. So let's go ahead and dive on in to some matches and see how we feel after actually playing it out. Oh, we have wiggly eyes here too. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Do, 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 do. Light up the stage does not bin anything, Dallas. Light up the stage is exile. Pretty easy mulligan here. Can someone take a screenshot of this and submit it as evidence 4579 in the trial of the people against the flat shuffler? Obviously, the shuffler has to be broken if we got 5 lands in our 19 land deck. That's clearly impossible. Everybody knows that random means uniformly distributed. I think Wizards would make the eyes a permanent feature. I think that's unlikely. This hand is, it's kind of all dressed up with nowhere to go, huh? Oh, I forgot to put my Skewer skin on. I totally have the Skewer skin from the event over the weekend. Hey, what's going on, the Ziggs? Thanks for the 14 months. I've really been enjoying the Vein of Fear deck too. It's been a lot of fun. What deck did I use for the weekend event? I tweeted a picture of it. I ended up playing Blue-Green Climb. It's really annoying when you import deck lists into Arena. It doesn't automatically use your sweet skins if you have them, and there's no button that automatically applies all the skins in your collection to the cards that you have. Oh, Magic. I mean, to be fair, it looks like our opponent's playing Nexus of Fate, so even if we drew lands, we probably wouldn't play much Magic anyways. Remember when I commented earlier that the Phoenixes felt really clunky in this archetype? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, hopefully they add the ability to just have a button that says apply all skins for your current deck that you have. The Phoenixes aren't clunky, your shuffler is. There's probably some truth in that, Zach. There's probably some truth in that. Faithless looting off the top. Do you think the sound effect for Faithless looting would just be an audio clip saying, "Ban me"? Or just booing? My only regret is that I have but 2 shocks to give. It would just be a man whispering no changes. Just like that, it was gone. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Fear my turn 6 Arclight Phoenix cast from my hand, for I am a powerful magician. I mean, at the end of the day, Neil, it's all about having a deck you enjoy, right? Like, I was, like, super burnt on Modern, and then I found the Vanifear Core deck, and it's definitely, like, rekindled my love, a little bit of my love for the format. I don't know that I would say it's made me enjoy it enough to be willing to lose with garbage tier decks again, but, like, there's at least a deck that I can play where I go, oh, I know I'm going to enjoy most of the games that I play with this. Before anybody asks why I conceded there, the answer is because I was bored. And if you were expecting a different answer, you haven't watched the stream enough. Let's play a game where we get to draw some lands here, hopefully. Do you think Experimental Frenzy would be a good choice in this deck? I do not, Kendi. So a lot of our cards draw extra cards, and casting cards that draw cards while you have an Experimental Frenzy in play is counter goes against what you're looking to do. Like I said, the real thing that makes the Nexus deck so tedious is that uncertainty, right? That we're like, you're waiting there and you're like, well, I don't actually know if I'm dead or not. Like, the fact you just have to sit there, if you're truly competitive, you just have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs waiting to find out if you've lost the game while they do their thing for 5 to 10 minutes. In fact, I think the reason I most wish the Invitational would have been traditional best of 3 with sideboards is because if the Invitational had been best of 3 with sideboards, I think there's a 0% chance Nexus of Fate wouldn't have been banned. I definitely think they banned Nexus in best of 1 and arena formats because they didn't want it at their Invitational. It's not a good look. Alright, so now I have to decide, do I want to cycle through this Warlord's Fury, or do I want to save it for a million turns from now to try and put the Phoenix back? I think I want to just cast this to try and hit my 4th land, so that way I can cast the Arclight Phoenix next turn. Yeah, and like, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the Nexus of Fate deck. I just like to explain the waiting aspect because people are often like, well, other decks are combo decks too and you don't hate them. It's like, it's not the fact that it's a combo deck, it's explicitly the fact that the uncertainty that's involved with it. Any decks I want to see in the format? Yeah, I would love to see mid-range decks that don't just lose to this card. That would be ideal. It'll be interesting to see if there are Planeswalker designs that can make the Planeswalker decks competitive against Nexus of Fate and Wilderness Reclamation. Booze Shoes, thanks for the quarter of a year. Welcome back. I appreciate you keeping me employed here. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a good start to your week. I'm going to hold on to this for now, I think. I'm going to hold on to that, too. I'm just going to go ahead and get these risk factors going, I think. Yeah, I agree, David Bowie. That Jeskai Ascendancy is 100%, and I enjoy playing that deck, but that uncertainty while you sit there and wait to die is miserable. But another comparison, too, is the playability of a deck, I think, factors into that a lot. Like, I would not call the Jeskai Ascendancy deck anything near Tier 1 in Modern, right? So, like, a deck like that that's kind of interesting and tedious when it's bad, and it's just this thing that happens occasionally, I think is fine. But when it's something that happens all the time, it becomes unacceptable. Well, I should have waited to play my mountain out. I got you. I got you. I've only played 2 instants or sorceries this turn. I think I'm just putting this into play to start attacking with. I'm going to discard the Arclight Phoenix, I think. Yeah, KCI is a more apt comparison because that deck was tiered, like this deck is tiered. But I think the person in chat that was talking about Ascendancy is specifically asking about that one because that's a deck that I enjoy playing. Because like I said, there's nothing wrong with enjoying playing decks like this. They just are fundamentally different than something a combo deck like, say, Splinter Twin, where when they combo you die and you don't have to wait there. What's going on, Prince Day? Yes, who's back? Back again. Hoglin's back. Tell a friend. So we're hoping to draw a 1-mana spell. Perfect. So let's go land, risk factor, ditch the Phoenix. Then we can double skewer here. So this is worth guaranteed 1. Each of these are worth 4. So they're actually just dead here, right? They need a counterspell. And even if they have a counterspell for this, then they die to the Arclight. I do think this deck has a pretty reasonable matchup against the opponent's archetype. We just fumbled and bubbled in the first game. Pretty happy with how I sideboarded. So far into these war spoilers, including the new ones they've been rolling out today, there's going to be no shortage of sweet things to build around, so that's good. Keep ourselves edutained for a while. I don't think I can keep this in good conscience. It just doesn't do anything, right? Like, I think a hand with this many lands and, like, no Steam-Kin, no Electrostatic Field's a mulligan. This seems super reasonable. I would love a Duress on one. Hitso, thank you for the half a year. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me employed here. Do you have an opt or do you have a spell pierce? Some of these decks play pierce in the main. Alright. I want to be very clear here. It is super tempting to take this and hope they get screwed and then salt off when they draw their lands anyways. Take the card that kills you. Don't try and get lucky and hope they break. Just take the engine piece and hope that you can race them. The googly eyes and the deck boxes are well done. I agree. Quite fantastical. I'm not normally a fan of mandatory ads in video, but it's a nice when they serve as a useful reminder to resub. Thank you for the 14 months, Princess Silver. That is correct. If you are a sub on my channel, you will not see adverts. Seems like a smart box for me to tick. You won't see ads other than these. These ones aren't going anywhere. You won't see video ads. Ooh. I'm gonna go ahead and smack them for 2 here. I want to play around this blink to the best of my ability. So I could just like 5 them here and crank this to a 4, but I think they're pretty likely to blink this turn, and then I want to just replay the Steam-Kin afterwards. Yep. And then I think I'm actually going to play this post-combat, because this way, and I like my opponent's timing on the blink here, by waiting till the end of turn to blink, they then potentially leave me with no power in play, using their health total as a bit of a resource here, and that's why I want to play the Rix Maadi, so this way I'm guaranteed to have a threat in play, even if it's not a super fantastic threat, through the blink, so I can keep the pressure going here. That is a phenomenal draw. Means we'll get to stick this through a Sinister Sabotage here, unless both these cards are sabotaged. Hey, show me what you're working with. Yep. Perfect. And making them sabotage here, as opposed to being able to Chemister's Insight, is like also good for us. Looks like we're currently up on the front page. If you're dropping in from there, welcome. My name is Jeff Hoagland. I'm a full-time streamer and content producer on Twitch. We're currently playing Magic the Gathering Arena, which is the new strategy card game from Wizards of the Coast. The OG of strategy card games, if you would. We're gonna go ahead and Warlord's Fury here. The arena part is very new. The Magic part is not. So I think I want to get aggressive here. This last card could be a card that prevents combat damage, but I think I want to just try and get in here with all we got. So this puts them to 11. This puts them to 5. And then I think there's a good chance this Risk Factor draws cards here. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the counters off of this to Risk Factor before I play my land for the turn, because this way I see if I have another card I might want to discard to jumpstart this later. So Risk Factor has the mechanic Jumpstart, which means I can play this card from my discard pile by discarding a different card from my hand, which is what they allowed me to do. So this card gives my opponent a choice on whether or not they would like to take damage or let me draw cards there. So they chose to let me draw cards. And the reason why my opponent's choosing to let me draw cards rather than take the damage is because my creatures in play they can prevent damage from with cards that, say, prevent all combat damage till end of turn, for instance. So, I think I want to just Risk Factor to start here. So this Arclight Phoenix card in my hand can come back from my discard pile to play. So basically, I want to try and kill them here through the card that says prevent all combat damage. So by casting the Risk Factor, I'm giving myself a chance to draw cards like Shock and Skewer. So that way they die even without my combat step here. Blink of an eye. Okay, that's really good. So that sets me back a little bit. Okay, the blink was really good there. Playing, not just casting the Phoenix, failed to play around Blink of an Eye. Was I supposed to play around Blink? I don't think I'm supposed to play around Blink there, because they'd already played one Blink of an Eye, and they haven't played any of their fog effects yet. So we replay the Steam-Kin here. We hit them to 3. It's unfortunate that if I would have hit 2 1-mana spells there, I would have been able to return my Phoenix to play by casting 3 instants or sorceries this turn. But because I only drew 1, I wasn't able to do that. My opponent's playing a combo deck, so if they have the right series of cards in their hand here, we might not get another turn. Thanks, Mr. Maple Syrup. I left the beard because the purple in the beard has stayed through pretty well, but the hair had faded a lot with the pink and it was getting kind of scraggly. Biogenic Ooze. Wow, getting all right, better lucky than good. I was gonna say we're kind of getting super punished for not just casting the Phoenix last turn. Got him. They reprinted actual factual Thoughtseize. It was, JoJo. We had a pretty good set with it. Actual factual Thoughtseize. It's a fake? I really hope it's a fake. I really hope it's a fake. I really hope it's a fake for April Fool's Day. Thoughtseize might have, you asked for it to be played on Friday. Fuck. I totally didn't write that down. I'm sorry, JoJo, I totally didn't write that down. I can run it back on Friday. What day is Friday? The 5th? It'll happen again on Friday, JoJo. I'm gonna keep this hand. It needs a second land in it, but Crash Through is what we refer to as a cantrip in Magic, which refers to a card that draws another card. So I have the draw from this Crash Through plus the draw for my turn to hit my second land. And once I hit my second land with this hand, the light up the stages will likely propel me into the third. Looks like we're playing against this blue-green combo deck again here. So I think I'm actually just going to play... So I could shock my opponent and then light up the stage to draw 2 cards to try and hit a land here. But I think I'd rather play the second field, so that way when I cast these spells, they deal an additional point of damage. So I'm casting Shock here because light up the stage utilizes the Spectacle mechanic, which means it's cheaper if I've dealt damage to my opponent. Hopefully they don't have a copy of Sinister Sabotage here. They do, so Sabotage disrupts my spell. That being said, I do still get the triggers from these Electrostatic Fields. So if my opponent doesn't have a particularly fast combo draw here, these risk factors could easily punch through. This is one of the key parts of their combo engine here. It untaps their land, which gives them huge amounts of mana with which to combo eventually. Do you have another Sabotage? Sweet, it doesn't look like it. So they're down to 8 here, and most critically, because they're down to 8, if they don't combo us, these risk factors are likely to draw 3 cards, which should propel us into victory from there. Hey, Ming, thanks for the Prime support. I appreciate that. There's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff on Twitch right now. Thanks for supporting mine this month with that. So this card kind of doubles my opponent's mana in a roundabout way, which lets them accelerate into playing this Nexus of Fate card very quickly, which lets them take an extra turn. So if my opponent's deck successfully combos from here, I just won't get to take another turn of Magic, and they're just going to play with themselves. Which, My opponent playing with themselves might be against the Twitch terms of service, so hopefully we don't get flagged for showing that on stream. And this is that uncertainty that we talked about earlier, where it's like, well, I might not get another turn, but my opponent also isn't guaranteed to win from here. So if I want to give myself the best chance to win this match, I need to kind of sit here and wait to find out if they actually have full lethal or not. I think we're getting to the point where we're likely deterministically dead. So my opponent gets to flip this card called Search for Azcanta, which then lets them look at 4 cards every turn, which this means they're now incredibly likely to be able to continue taking extra turns. So I'm going to go ahead and concede here, because while we're not guaranteed dead, there's some small minuscule chance that we could win from here. We are very likely done for. One of the things that's really nice, so the format of Magic that I play on stream is called Traditional or Standard Best of 3 with sideboards. So in between our games, we get to go ahead and cut some of these cards that aren't fantastic against what our opponent's doing to make our deck a little bit better in the matchup so we have a better chance to win. Adds a little bit of balancing, because card games tend to have matchups that we refer to as polarizing, where one deck is incredibly likely to win over the other, and by having this sideboarding mechanic, we're able to kind of balance that out so you have a realistic chance in many of the matches that you're playing. What's going on, Robert? I appreciate the 13 months. Welcome back. Yeah, I wish I understood the rhyme or reason to how the front page works, but we just like randomly get thrown up there. I don't actually always know when we're up there. So, I have a decision to make here. I could shock in the Blood Crypt to Duress them on 1, or I could wait till after I have the Electrostatic Field in play. I think I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to take it a little bit slow and steady here. The downside to waiting on the Duress is, if my opponent has a copy of Search for Azcanta, I don't get to Duress them before they play Search. Oh, I forgot to change our avatar. I've been changing the avatar based on the deck we're playing. So, every time we cast a red spell, my Steam-Kin gets a little bit larger. It might be appealing to shock my opponent's face, because then I can attack for 3 into their 3/1. Actually, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna attack before I make a play, because now when if my opponent blocks, I get to shock their face and eat their 1/3. And if they don't block, I get in 2 points of damage, and then I get to Duress them. The card that I really want to Duress out of my opponent's hand is the card Wilderness Reclamation, and that card doesn't cost 4. So by killing their Accelerant and Druid of the Cowl here, I no longer need to worry about playing Duress this turn, because I can Duress them next turn and still be getting it before they play their thing. Instant speed cards add a lot of play in Magic for sure. Rix Kennedy doling out a pile of sub-gifties this morning. Good morning to you, and welcome, new folks. You've been given the gift of speech. Thanks for dropping into Hoaglandia. So, I think I go ahead. Oh, this is actually really sick. So I get to Duress them. Risk factor again off of Steam-Kin, and then put the Phoenix into play. I think I'm actually just going to take the Nexus of Fate here. The rest of their hand doesn't do a whole lot. So this Runaway Steam-Kin gets a counter on it every time we cast an instant or sorcery spell. That's every time we cast a red spell, sorry. And then we can remove counters to make mana. And the risk factor was going to ditch the Phoenix and then floop it into play. Aladur, thanks for the Prime support. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Thanks for supporting my content this month with that. And Steve, welcome. Thanks for showing me your Prime this way again. Hope you had a good weekend. Yeah, I try to explain a little bit more about what's going on when we're on the front page. I really wish there was something that like popped up on my dashboard that was like, hey, idiot, you're on the front page. Explain what you're doing better. I have to, like, when my viewer count jumps a little bit, I was like, oh, I should probably go check and see if that's the case. Strickles, well, thanks for the 2/3 of a year. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. So, Rix Maadi Reveler has a little bit of synergy here with the Arclight Phoenix. Get to go ahead and discard this and draw another card. I would love to draw a copy of the card Shock next turn, so that way I can shock my opponent and enable these. I'm going to start with Crash Through here. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. So, the Phoenix card, I have to play 3 instants or sorcery spells before I attack. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get this bird back this turn, even though I played 3 things. I played the other 2 instant sorceries post-combat. I went ahead and played the Skewer over here, even though I could still play it next turn, because this turn I'm pretty sure I want to just play this Arclight Phoenix out, and the cards that get exiled from light up the stage should only be cast until the end of the next turn cycle. This is a donation version of Memekin Zack Attack. The Phoenixes have felt kind of middling, just like last time when we cut them. Oh, Marty. Yikes. Well, this is... So, the mana system in Magic gives it an incredibly deep deck building ability, but it also does add some incredible variance to the game, so... ASD, thank you for the 13th month. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. It says, I mentioned earlier this matchup tends to be good for us. However, when 9 of our 16 cards are just resources and not things to do, there's not a whole lot we can do, unfortunately. And, like, obviously, hindsight being 20/20, if I know I'm going to draw all these lands and no spells, I would have kept this Phoenix with the Rix Maadi Reveler so I could just cast it. Sweet. And my opponent's going to start comboing here. They're not guaranteed to combo from this point, but our hand's bad enough that I'm just going to go ahead and move on with our lives. I think Flame of Keld would be a good or interesting addition. We've played this deck with Flame of Keld in the past, and I really don't think it solves any of the problems that the deck has. Let's have Rakdos Strive for a bit, shall we? Yeah, and like, if you look at other games that have tried to solve the land problem that Magic has, it really kind of shows the strategy that lands do add to the game as well, because they give you, while it's frustrating to like flood or screw, they give you a lot of control over your own destiny too in a lot of ways that other mechanics don't, especially when it comes to like the deck building aspect of Magic. I want to hold on to this Shock for later. Having extra spells, especially ones that like enable my spectacle cards, is valuable. Huh. So, my opponent's passed with 3 mana up here, which likely signifies that they have the card Absorb, which is a card that lets them counter my spell and allows them to gain 3 life. So by passing the turn here and not spending my mana on my turn, I'm kind of denying my opponent efficiency by not giving them a spell to use their 3 mana on here. And now I am not lacking in efficiency because I'm using my 3 mana on the end of their next turn. Yep, we got Absorb. So we'd love to draw a land here so we can Carnage them. Rats. Alright, so what are we doing here? I'm going to start with Crash Through. Light Up the Stage is fantastic, so this draws me 2 cards that I have to play before the end of the next turn. We didn't really play a lot of matches, unfortunately, where the board gummed up. So I don't know that I got a really good measure on how good or bad the Amaras were, or the Guild Mages were. I don't think they were worse than the Amaras, to set a kind of low bar. So it's a little unfortunate that our Light Up the Stage both didn't find a land and found this 3-mana risk factor. So if I don't play this risk factor this turn, I lose it. It's like a use it or lose it. I have to play before the end of my next turn. However, I think it's pretty important that I take my opponent's powerful Planeswalker out of play here. So I think I'm actually going to choose to lose this, and I'm going to go ahead and shock plus skewer this Teferi to take him out of play. This card draws my opponent an additional card every single turn, so it's a card that snowballs very quickly. I think I want these Carnages. If I play Rix Maadi, maybe I just play Rix Maadi and cycle through the Crash through that way. This card makes me discard a card when it comes into play. You see that risk factor just goes away into the exile zone forever. It does. It also generates more mana for them every turn, which is important. That's the downside to that. However, getting to Carnage my opponent here is pretty decent. This does 3 to them. It makes them discard 2 cards. The downside to this Carnage is that my opponent does get to flip the Search for Azcanta Tutor. There's a very real possibility that I don't have enough pressure in play with them at 12 here to win through this card, drawing them an additional card every turn. As the game goes long here, things like Runaway Steam-Kin are less likely to live. I'm not playing this land out because I want to discard it to jumpstart this risk factor. So jumpstarting risk factor requires I discard a card from my hand, so it's kind of turning that land into an extra risk factor. I'm doing this in response to the search for Azcanta because my opponent's Azcanta activation here could yield a card like Absorb or Syncopate, something that stops my card from working. That kills my dork and gains them 2. Not good for the home team here. All right, if they don't have a counterspell, maybe this is okay. But again, like they're still at 10, and my deck, especially game 1, doesn't really have comeback mechanics in it. I think there's a good chance this game is nearing its completion. One of the things that you have to really learn as a newer player in Magic is that the control decks like my opponents are playing, they have effectively won the game to a point where your deck can no longer win long before they ever put your health total to 0. So even though I'm at 18 and my opponent's at 7 here, the position they're in with the cards in their hand and their other cards in play makes them incredibly unlikely to lose the game from there. This is definitely a Duress and a Theater of Horrors matchup. What do you think is the best deck to climb the ladder with? Probably white aggro. Vicarian, thank you for the quarter of a year. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. I want to sideboard out in this matchup. I think Tormenting Voice comes out here. This card, if it gets countered, you lose 2 cards. You have to discard a card to play it. The reach on Skewer is nice, but I think it's a little bit hard to enable, and it doesn't kill anything out of them. But maybe I'm just not supposed to trim that much reach out of my deck. The discard 2 on this is nice, but it's really expensive, so I think I want to trim that in favor of more efficient things. Flame of Keld is more volatile and doesn't really give you control, Gendy. So I need to trim 4 more cards here. It could be a mix of things too. Like I could coward split it, like cut a couple of these and a couple of something else. That doesn't seem completely unreasonable. Like 1 of these and 3 of these draws. That seems fine. Let's give this a go. Fire Emblem, thanks for the Prime support again. There's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff on Twitch. Thanks for supporting mine this month with that. Hope you're having a good start to your week. This hand seems sweet. So Theater of Horrors is a way, I mentioned in game 1 that our deck doesn't really have comeback mechanics or a way to generate real card advantage, and Theater of Horrors helps change that. So this card effectively lets us draw 2 cards per turn. Duress helps us punch through cards like Mortify and Duresses of their own. So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take their Mortify here, because Mortify would be able to kill one of my theaters. They do have Duress, which is going to let them take one of my theaters, but this way the one that resolves is going to accumulate cards under it. Booyah, thanks for the 3 months. Welcome back. And Disperse Mead, thanks for an easy 3 months. Well, thanks for keeping me around. I appreciate it. So, Theater of Horrors, the longer it's in play, the more card advantage it amasses underneath it. Every turn, this theater is going to collect a card. Play the Steam-Kin out here. We know my opponent has this Vraska's Contempt, but if they're Vraska's Contempting Runaway Steam-Kin this turn, they're then not Chemister's Inciting, which is ultimately a win for me. So, this card lets them draw additional cards. Kind of stunting their growth there a little bit. It's a Blood Crypt under there. I think I'm going to start with just a... Let's Risk Factor to start, actually. Because if they take 2 from this, I can play Blood Crypt, and or they take 4, I get to play the Blood Crypt and the Duress from underneath the theater. So I can only play the cards that are under here if my opponent's taken damage that turn. That is terrifying. I am not sure. I guess I could draw a copy of Shock. It's a 5/5 with lifelink. Not surprised to see them sorcery speed this year. They're trying to hit their land drop. That is not a white source, notably. I'm going to go ahead and poke my opponent. Am I going to poke them with this? No, I'm just going to Risk Factor. So I'm going to Risk Factor discarding this land, which unlocks the land from under here. Before I play the land from under Theater of Horrors, though, I'm going to go ahead and play this Light Up the Stage, because the lands exiled by Light Up the Stage have a shelf life on them, right? And I think I'm actually going to play the Theater land rather than this land from the Light Up the Stage, because I'm guaranteed to get to play this land next turn still, whereas this one might not happen if my opponent doesn't take damage. So we're hoping they miss on a white source again this turn, so they still can't cast Lyra. Losing Skewer is a big deal. That means if they hit the white source like this, I'm probably dead. The Skewer was one of our ways to kind of get back into this game. Because Skewer, if I paired it with a Shock, was going to be able to, kill this with their powers combined. Yeah, the control matchups were always hard for configurations of this deck. They just have a lot of quality answers. I think we would have won this game if they didn't have their Lyra, but that's what it is. Yeah, this card gains them 5 every turn, so yeah, I was waiting one more just in case we drew like Shock Skewer, but this one's pretty done. And that, honestly, the control matchup being hard for this archetype is one of the reasons why I ultimately ended up just cutting the Phoenixes from the build that we've played more recently. Before this one, is because, like, the one place where the Phoenixes really shine are the control matchups that are where you want this card that's recursive that comes back through the removal spells, but if it's still hard even with that threat, I'd kind of just like to give up the matchup. Hope that you don't see it. This hand doesn't really do anything. Any build-around submissions you should put through the form on my website. And I am accepting build-around submissions for cards that are spoiled from the new set right away. So, you see something come up and you're like, oh, I want to see a deck with that when the set releases, you can submit them now. As a reminder, build-around submissions are $25. But if you put them in early, they'll be able to accumulate waiting points between now and when the set releases on the 25th. I chose to lead on Runaway Steam-Kin there as opposed to Electrostatic Field because when I play the field here, it's going to trigger the Steam-Kin. Main deck negate. Yep. I do still get my Electro trigger and my Runaway Steam-Kin trigger, which is nice. Another light up the stage. Sign me up. So lead on this. See if they have another counter spell. Once they get to 3 mana, they're more likely to have a counter spell, just because it unlocks the ability for them to play things like oh, I'm blanking on its name. Whatever that card's called. Sinister Sabotage. So Carnage going to go ahead and dump through them here. So I could... Wow, they had another negate and they chose not to play it. Interesting. Oh, no, they discarded Chemist's Insight. Got it. So I'm going to play Rix Maadi here, because when I have an empty hand, Rix Maadi's just a free draw. So the draw from this card isn't dependent on you discarding something, which is nice. And this got drawn this turn, so I still get to replay this next turn, which is great. So I'm drawing with the Warlord's Fury here to start. Wow, that's an aggressive Frilled Mystic. Huh. So I think I'm going to go ahead and Tormenting Voice here. I could exile counters from the Steam-Kin, or remove counters from the Steam-Kin to cast this, but I'd like to wait, because I'm not sure how big I want this to be when I attack. Because if I couldn't get this back up to a 4-4, like I couldn't here because I bricked, I wouldn't have been able to attack into their 3-2 here. Why don't I attack first and then keep casting? Because there's a sequence of cards that I could draw pre-combat there that draw Phoenix. And I have enough lands and mana at this point that making this smaller, like, really isn't that profitable. Like, the upside isn't really proportional to the reward. Unfortunate that they have Blink of an Eye here. My hand is really bad and they might get another turn. Please counter this. Please counter this. Rats. Thought they were gonna take the bait. So now Arclight Phoenix is lethal here. They have the Frilled Mystic. Yep, this is well timed on my opponent's part. They were patient and they got rewarded. The beard is getting long. Normally I trim the beard at this point, but with the pink I'm letting it pop out a little bit. Alright, this could be the beginning of the end here. Things are starting to slip away from us. Had 6 lands and 17 cards in our 19 land deck. That's a pretty good one. Another Frilled Mystic. Holy crap. Woof. Maybe I'm supposed to just pass here. I don't know. They've played so many counter spells. They've played so, like, if they went to Chemist's Insight, I could risk factor and get them. Then, like, they could just let me draw and I could draw blanks. That's tough. I can't jumpstart the risk factor, remember, because that requires a card in my hand in order to do it. Alright, so they don't have another counter spell here. I don't think they can attack. Otherwise, Phoenix is potentially lethal. If they don't have a counter spell, any instant or sorcery we draw is lethal. Do you have the 4th Frilled Mystic? Or a 2nd negate, or a sabotage? Oh, alright, hit me, dealer. Hey-oh. I say hey, I say hey, I say da-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'm doing this just in case they can gain life in response here. I don't know. It's not guaranteed BM. Like, there's a tactical reason to do that. A lot of my song parodies are at least a decade old. There's a satellite radio station called Pop 2K. That's just like mono jams of my childhood and adolescence. Which speaking of jams of my childhood and adolescence, the Linkin Park in the Magic preview video took me back. I was like, hey, I know this song. Music today is bad. Am I disconnected? No, it is the children who are wrong. This hand doesn't have a Duress in it, but it's like fairly proactive, so it's an easy keep with 3 lands here. Again, just on a quick sequencing note, we lead on Steam-Kin rather than Electrostatic Field because playing the field after the Steam-Kin triggers the Steam-Kin. All music made after the year 2000 uniformly became terrible as the switch from 1159 to 1200 artistic talent left the world. That sounds like a strong conclusion. Alright, do you have a blank? Bison, thank you for the 5 months of support. Can you point me towards resources and articles on mulligan strategy? I don't have any good ones immediately offhand for you, unfortunately. It's a really deep topic that, like, strategy that applies to some positions isn't going to apply to others. Well, if they don't have a counterspell or a way to interact with our board, we are about to dumpster them next turn. Our turn's going to get very silly very quickly. Runaway Steam-Kin, as I like to say, is an aptly named Magic card. It runs away with the game. Here we go! Alright, so we pop these. So this is my floating mana here. So let's go ahead and shock this because shocking this still does a damage to them with the Electrostatic Field. So then we get to go ahead and light the stage up. Light them up. They're on fire. Ho, 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 do, 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 do. You remember when this was a 400 viewer modern stream? Are you referring to Friday? Friday we were a 400 viewer modern stream. Oh, and actually, I can just spectacle this at this point, right? Rix Maadi draws 3. Opponent's seen enough. They understand. They understand the ratings on the wall. They know where this is going. How are we doing, folks? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to everybody wherever you're at in the world. Thanks for dropping in here today. My name is Jeff Hoagland. I stream Magic the Gathering full-time here on Twitch. I'm here playing Magic 30, 40, 50 hours a week. If you're someone who enjoys standard best of 3 constructed, this is definitely the channel for you. As always, I'd like to give a shout out to my wonderful subs. I wouldn't be here day in and day out without their wonderful support. I'd also like to plug a couple of my fantastic sponsors really quick here. Jang, thank you for the 15 months. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Harry's Razors would love to help you get that close, clean shave using code Jeff Hoagland at bit.ly/sugarshave. You can save $5 on your brand new shaving starter kit with them. Remember, chat, just because you have a nice beard doesn't mean you need to have a neck beard. Lucid Sound is the maker of my wonderful headset here. If you head on over to lucidsound.com using code TEMPO, you can save 20% plus get yourself free shipping with them. Neo provides wonderful candy-flavored protein bars using code Hoagland at bit.ly/sugarbar. You can save 10% on all of your orders there. And, of course, I'd like to welcome everyone out there to Hoaglandia. I know there's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff on Twitch right now, and I appreciate you choosing to spend part of your Monday here with us. Remember, if you are new to the stream and you enjoy the magic or the way I break down my plays or all that jazz, be sure to hit that follow button. Following the stream doesn't cost you anything. It'll let you know when I go live and with what. Heading on into our next match here with Memekin. There's been a lot of blue-green Nexus on the ladder so far today. I do really feel like the constructed events that we've been playing in, that deck's a lot less represented, so it's kind of nice not having to. No fire, no steely eyes. Yeah, the design space of the Planeswalkers not giving themselves counters back is really interesting. And this is, again, like, one of the issues with this deck that I feel like we really fixed by cutting these Arclight Phoenixes is, like, imagine if this Arclight Phoenix is a Spear Spewer, like the card that taps to deal damage to both players. Like, this hand's much better if it just has an early play. Crazy Duck, thank you for the very generous tier 2 resub. Welcome back. Remember to drop me a list and let me know which deck that's already in the queue you'd like to bump up for being that high level tier. Green Apples, thanks for shipping your Bezo bucks this way again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think there's a chance, I think I'm supposed to mulligan this. I think a hand without, like, Rix Maadi, Steam-Kin, or Reveler in it is just not enough. This hand at least has Tormenting Voice to ditch the Arclight Phoenix. We have a chance to flip the Phoenix out on turn 3, so I think this is good. Like, this is 1 mana, and this makes this 1 mana. So I get 2 draw steps plus some hits off of this to find a 3rd land plus another 1 mana spell to get the Phoenix going. I get a Scry too. Huh. Abzan Aristocrats. Will do, Crazy Duck. I think I'm going to bottom that. I think I'm looking for lands and 1 mana spells. This matchup tends to be hard for this archetype in my experience. Opposing red decks have a lot of really cheap removal that allows them to interact with our damage sources consistently. And, what's the word that I'm searching for? They also have a fast clock combined with that disruption. Alright, so I think what I'm supposed to do here, I think I'm supposed to shock them, cast Light Up the Stage, and then Skewer the Runaway Steam-Kin. I don't think I can let this sit and play. Like we've said, playing it from this side of the board, that card is aptly named. Sweet, we drew a shock. So that sounds fantastic. So land. Okay, so here's a question too. Do I shock the Steam-Kin? Or do I skewer it? I think I'm actually supposed to skewer it, which is less damage to their face later overall, but this always costs 1 mana. And with this other Light Up the Stage and Exile here, next turn I want guaranteed to be able to shock them plus play Light Up the Stage. So that way if they do kill my Arclight Phoenix, I'm more likely to be able to get it back. Ninja Dave, 1 more month and I get my new boots. Can't wait. Thank you for the... Oh, no, you get them now. Yeah, you got boots right now. What? 3, 6, and 12 are the icon changes. So this shock, both of these cards are on the use it or lose it point of their lifetime. So let's cast this to start. Give myself the most possible choices here. It's a Carnival. So Carnival, and this is why I waited to shock, because Carnival kills the Steam-Kin nicely. Then this shock is going away this turn, so let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and play... I'm going to play this out and pass. I mentioned this matchup's hard for us, but looks like I'm kind of eating crow in a good way. We are successfully running them down here. They shock down to 9. That seems good for the home team. They know about this shock. They're striking my pigeon, sure. Yeah, usually the red aggressive decks splash green for Collision Colossus, as well as the card Collision Colossus and Cindervines. So now I have a decision point to make. This Rix Maadi Reveler with Spectacle draws 3 cards. So I could shock this to keep my health total high, or next turn I could shock their Dome, shock this in, play Rix Maadi. I think I'm supposed to just keep my health total high here, especially with the Phoenix in the bin. Because, like, if I take this hit for 3, I go to 15. And then once I go to 15, I'm gonna be taking 4 more the next turn. It doesn't seem particularly appealing. I take 3, plus I take more the following turn, so drawing 3 is a nice upside, but I don't think it's quite worth it. Fair's fair. This Arclight Phoenix is like looking like a pretty reasonable draw here. I'm so sad the correct answer wasn't drawing more cards. Me too, Punchworthy. Me too. Upstairs. Alright, so this means they have to kill the Phoenix or they're dead. And we have a lot of draws that just kill them next turn. I think it's right to put them to 3 here rather than kill their Pyromancer. I think it's right to put them dead on board. This card actually seems pretty good in this matchup. Man, what are my cuts? Is this a Whirly Boy matchup? What do we think about Chainwhirler here? He blocks in combat, he kills Pyromancer, he kills Firebrand. Is he not good enough on the draw? Maybe he's just better than Risk Factor in general. Risk Factor's a little bit clunky. Risk Factor's kind of slow. Is it crazy to cut Steam-Kin? Is that just like some nutso sauce? I feel like that's not absurd. Axe, thanks for the Prime support. I appreciate that. I think I want to cut the Steam-Kin. It just dies almost all the time, right? Especially post-board. I'm going to cut 1 factor in the 4 Steam-Kin for the Whirly Boys and the extra land. Yeah, I really don't like Cannonade in this matchup. I think it's a little bit too narrow. So, the rest of our stuff just dies, but our stuff does, the rest of the stuff does stuff before it dies, right? So it's an interesting discussion. There's also the point of Steam-Kin dies to things that our other things don't die to. So like a card like Rix Maadi, I can make it do something before it just eats removal and dies. Chainwhirler gets a point in, maybe kills something. Like, the rest of our cards do stuff before they eat it and go to the graveyard. Hey, Try, thank you for the 8-month resub. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. My opponent's mulligan to 5, and then they scried to the bottom. My only regret is that they didn't mulligan to 4. I think I just hold on to these. So, like, if I didn't have a 3rd land guaranteed, I think I would play these to try and hit the 3rd land. But I think because I have 3 guaranteed, I'm just going to go 2-3 here. That's actually kind of good. That is kind of scary. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, it deals the damage to us. This is probably going to deal 5 or 6 points of damage to us over the course of the game. Yeah, my preferred iteration of this archetype definitely has Gutter Snipe in it, Skip Dash. You can find my preferred iteration of this deck on my website. Goblin Chainwhirler killing Runaway Steam-Kin is unfair. This should not be possible. Alright, so we're gonna have to take some damages here, but I get a free bird. This is only fair, right? I cast a spell, we both take a point. Symmetry, chat. Symmetry is balanced. I shouldn't have played my land here, because if I drew light up the stage, it would be a mistake. We did not draw light up the stage because there's no justice. That's good. Risk factor looking to end up being pretty reasonable this game. Also have Carnival. Carnage looking okay. If this gets even one hit in, that's fantastic for us. Are they dead? I think they're dead, right? This does 4. And this does 3, and this does 2. Triggers. Can you reorder opponent's triggers on your turn since they trigger off the same thing? No. So the way simultaneous triggers work, in this case, like Cindervine with Electrostatic Field, it's called active player, non-active player priority. So the active player, which refers to whoever's turn it currently is, their triggers go on the stack first, which means they resolve last. So with Cindervines and Electrostatic Field in play, if I cast a spell on my turn, their Cindervine's trigger resolves first and then mine. Whereas with those two cards in play on their turn, my thing would resolve first. I forgot Fancy Skewer, right? I can't believe we've been playing this whole time with plebeian skewers. I apologize. And these are other cards that have full art frames available, but that I haven't spent money on yet. I actually have these Duresses in the sideboard. Forgot about that one. Keeps defaulting to the ugly Duresses. The wiggly eyes are Magic Arena's April Fool's thing. Yeah, they added wiggly eyes to all the deck boxes. So the cosmetics are awesome, but they did add a want to my list of, I wish I could import a deck list and then click a button that said apply all cosmetics. Like, or apply all full arts or animateds or whatever. Seems reasonable. One of the reasons why Electrostatic Field is so good in this deck is because it is a card that not only deals damage to our opponent, but it also blocks in these aggressive matchups. So you'll notice I shocked there proactively on my opponent's thing, even though shock's an instant. And the reason why I elected to shock there before I let them untap is because my opponent's deck has access to things like Wizard's Lightning, as well as things like Light Up the Stage, which I don't want this to deal damage to me or make their Wizard's Lightning cheaper. So by killing it right away, I make that not possible. This is an easy block here. If they want to spend a burn spell finishing this, I'm okay with that. Rigging Runner, interesting. Oh, I wonder if they're like an all one drops red deck. Rigging Runner is really interesting. I'll play another one of these and pass the turn here, I think. So this lets them. So this has 3 effects. The first one is draw a card, discard your hand, then it draws 2, then the following turn it makes all of their things deal extra damage, which is terrifying. They draw a removal spell this turn. They did. Alright, so I'm going to lead on Crash Through. Hoping to find another removal spell here so I can kill 2 of their things. Alright, well there's a Skewer at least. So if they draw a brick for the turn, I'm taking 7, which is terrifying. I'm taking 10. All of these do 2 extra points of damage here, so I'm blocking the 1-2 because this is going to take 3. And then I'm going to take 4, 7, 10. I feel like we're actually in an okay spot here. Shock's a pretty decent pickup here. So now if they attack with everything, I get to shock this, bounce here, eat here. And actually, so I'm going to eat the Firebrand rather than the Gitu Lava Runner. And the reason for this is they're locked out of good combat steps starting this turn. So by killing this would be able to deal a point to my dome next turn. So even though these can get second points of power, these are less scary because this represents a direct point of damage in the future. Hit them to 12. And then this does 2, this does 5, so we're threatening to close the game out pretty quickly here. You could maybe argue that this attack's a little bit aggressive, but I do need to close the game before my opponent draws lethal points of burn. Alright, so really want to draw a... What are the odds they let me draw cards with risk factor here? If this Warlord's Fury draws a 1-mana spell, I get to bring the Phoenix back, and then is that lethal? This does 2, this does 5. Yeah, I think I'm actually supposed to. I think I'm supposed to do this and try and hit the Phoenix. Because if I hit a castable spell here, they die. Sweet. Light them up. They're on fire. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Do, 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 do. Send them upstairs here. This triggers my Phoenix, which then has haste and flying. Caw-caw! Get him. Get him. Arr. Arr. All right, so my opponent's playing a lower to the ground red deck, which probably means they don't have, which probably means they're not playing Goblin Chainwhirler. I think Fiery Cannonade is actually not good here because some of their 1-drops are pirates, like both the Diagonal Goblin and the 2/2 with First Strike are goblins. I think I'm gonna cut 2 Steam-Kins as the last 2 trims. Yeah, Rigging Runner, that's his name. I don't think I need to like get all of them out like I did last time. You could also maybe argue that I get all of these out and I bring in a couple of Theater of Horrors, just because we're kind of becoming more of a control deck in this matchup that's looking to kind of keep their board contained and then pivot when we're ready to pivot. So I think I actually like that. I'm going to bring in 2 Theaters because a lot of our burn spells are going to be spent on removal. And then Theater of Horrors is a way for us to generate card advantage as the game's going longer as we prolong it. Yeah, we're gonna be 1-for-1ing a lot, which makes our card advantage potentially much better. Is this a keep? Whirly Boy's pretty good, I suppose. And the Warlord Fury gives us a redraw into something useful. I don't know, not impacting the board till turn 3 seems kind of scary. That's not a terrible draw. And again, the timing on these cantrips to let you draw additional cards tends to greatly vary based on what the rest of your hand is doing. This is actually an incredible draw because it lets me kill this and trigger Spectacle. So I get to do that, and then I get to skewer this. I think I just play this as a blocker. Yeah, the new Blood Artist effect seems sweet. Black-White Aristocrat's one of those decks that's like felt like it was on the cusp, and that's definitely a card that could push it over the top. Your singing has crept into my daily life, so you're saying there's a chance. What's going on, RJBH? I think this is a bird on defense. I could, like, maybe, super punish for playing bird on defense. So Lava Coil notably exiles the thing it kills. So normally Phoenix is great on defense because it comes back, but the exile means it's not. Yikes. Deeba, that's all, folks. Alright, this is why, and this is another reason why I enjoy Magic as a best-of-3 game the most, because, you know, sometimes you get that little bit of wrong half of variance, but you just gotta, in the words of the greatest poet of our generation, just shake it off. Move along to the next one. Syzygy, Stoneforge Mystic costs 2 and takes 3 turns. Hypergenesis costs 3 and takes 3 turns. Unbannable. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, especially with all the as foretold nonsense that's going on. All right, 1 land cantrip. Let's do it. Do you believe, chat? I believe in a thing called love. Oh no. The shocks can, like, allow us to tread water should we miss a land drop here. Oh no. Our hand's pretty good. I think this is a fine keep. It feels bad emotionally speaking to miss, but I don't think the keep is strictly bad because we didn't get there. Like the cards in our hand are good. Man, build your own Elvish Visionary. Pretty good. Pretty good. Is the Daredevil scary? Like Goblin Chainwhirler kills it? I would like to block. They kill the field. That's a burn spell that's not hitting my dome. You could maybe argue that I'm supposed to block the Firebrand as opposed to the Daredevil. So that way, Shock specifically doesn't kill my wall. Never not blocking. Gosh, if we'd have hit the 3rd land that turn, we'd be in a swell spot. We're just piling up here. Defense. Defense. Yeah, I'm supposed to shock this turn. Nah. It's gonna be okay. And this is again why I kept this hand, even though it was a little bit speculative, is because we're getting to actually play Magic here. Kind of, maybe. Magic's just sitting over on the other side of the table like, actually play Magic, eh, Jeff? You got another thing coming. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, the opponent is flooding a bit here, and we hit this third land to unlock these Chainwhirlers, so I think we're actually going to be in a pretty good spot here. Whirly boy up in your base, shooting rockets in your face. Get him. Get him. Arrgh. The old Grey Ogre. Big poppy chains. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Mamad, thank you for the 2-month resub. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me employed here. Hi, Felicia. Assault to God. Checking in for the 5th month in a row. Thanks for keeping me around. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. Screw does tend to beat Flood. And like I said, I think that hand was a good keep just because of the 2 shocks. Like, not only did we have the cantrip to, like, give ourselves an extra draw to hit the land, but, like, both the 0-4 walls and the shocks have a lot of play in that matchup. So, like, once we hit the second, we were, like, guaranteed to bridge to the third almost with any reasonable sequence. Jonesy, thank you for the 11th month. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. You know, all things considered, the Duresses were good out of the sideboard. I like that. I'm pretty sure those are on the list on my site. Carnival Carnage was really impressive. We had a couple of games where, like, this, like, picked off a Steam-Kin plus enabled Spectacle for, like, a light up the stage or a Skewer that seemed more than reasonable. And the Arclight Phoenix was definitely the MVP against the other red decks. Yeah, I agree, Marty. I still don't know how I feel about Arclight Phoenix, but I feel like Carnival Carnage was definitely worth its slot. All right, we are going to be rolling along to the next one here. If you're new to the stream, we get a lot of